And welcome to our January edition of Sports Highlights. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everybody is doing well. Off to a great year. Of course, our program Sports Highlights airs on Mondays at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., 7 p.m., weekends at 9 a.m., celebrating our anniversary in February from 1992. Our guests today are Deanna Edwards, Otis Westby, and Bianca Palmer-Scott. Let's lead off with Deanna Edwards. She's a certified athletic trainer for the Newport News Public Schools at Warwick High School. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Greg.
Very good. You got a background from Florida and Georgia.
I do. So I did my undergraduate degree at Georgia Southern University, where I earned my Bachelor's of Science in Kinesiology, and then I got my Master's at Florida International in athletic training.
So you really are a Southern girl here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, now you're Virginia, of course.
For lovers.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's talk about what is it like being a certified athletic trainer, and when did you realize when you were a young kid that you wanted to do this?
Sure. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I have a twin sister. She dislocated her shoulder in a basketball game. So at my high school, we had a certified athletic trainer, and the school that we were playing at, which was away, they didn't have one. And so I knew at that moment I didn't like seeing my sister in pain, so I was like, I want to be an athletic trainer. So then the next school year, I started working with my athletic trainer at the high school, and I never looked back.
And sometimes, and especially in football and basketball, these contact sports, wrestling, whatever, that, you can really dislocate a shoulder, have an Achilles, a calf issue. There's all types of dramatic issues with sports.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of athletic training. We're like the immediate care. So we specialize in preventing injuries and illnesses. A lot of those deaths that happen in the summer are from the summer in the practices, not from the game. So I think it's really good that we're able to prevent those from happening. We also specialize in treatment and rehab, administrative work. So it's a broad spectrum. We're not just tapers and water girls.
Right, no, because it's, you got to get ready, cardiology, whatever, too. I mean, heart conditions, people during the summer time when it's 100 degrees outside, stressing their bodies. That's why it's so important to stretch and also stay hydrated.
Absolutely. And then the Damar Hamlin situation, that's the immediate care. Like if an athletic trainer wasn't there, then the team doctor would have had to do it. But I think that since we're able to have that emergent and immediate care, that's what saved his life.
Yeah, the good thing about that was it was on a national TV day. There was several paramedics on site, and luckily it was in the public with people on site. Sometimes you could be walking in the woods and it can happen when you're by yourself, and that's even worse.
Exactly.
So what do you tell people, even sometimes when you're not thirsty, still drink water?
Yes, because when you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And so I like to tell not just my kids, but everyone, you should be drinking half your body weight in ounces. If you weigh 100 pounds, you need 50 ounces of water every single day. And so when you're an athlete, you need to have more than that. And then obviously you need to add in those electrolytes so you're not just urinating it all out.
Right, because, during the winter time, which we're in now, you still need your protein, you still need your fruits, you still need to stay hydrated. And sometimes if people say, I'll get to it later, they suffer during the game.
Absolutely.
Because, especially basketball games, they're late into the night.
And then they think, oh, I'm an indoor sport, and then they still catch cramps. So yes, hydration and stretching is very vital to preventing simple things like cramping.
Right. We're talking to Deanna Edwards. And of course, Deanna, talk about a typical schedule for you, because that's a lot of sports at work.
Absolutely. So we team up with Riverside. They've been very gracious for us, even though we're contracted through Newport News. So with all 5 athletic trainers, we come in, we teach the last class of the day. It's a sports medicine class. And then we roll right into athletics. So the way I set it up at Ward, I have sign-up sheets. And I put my teams at practice right after school earlier so that they can sign up for their treatment and rehab. And then football always practices last. So I start their rehab sessions at 3. And then everyone's able to get seen. They don't get the cookie cutter approach. I'm not just trying to hurry up. So they get the time that they need to help them recover for if it's just tight muscles or if they did have a chronic injury. And then once I finish with treatments and rehabs around 3:45, I'll go around to all the practices and make sure everyone's okay. And then I go back to the athletic training room just to be in a central location if someone does need me.
Are there warning signs or signals? Because sometimes when you see somebody with bloodshot eyes, that means they could be dehydrated.
Absolutely. Or if they're not sweating and it's hot, whether they're inside or outside, if majority of the athletes are sweating and they're not sweating, that's another sign of dehydration as well. I also tell my kids if they pinch their skin and if it doesn't come right back down, that's another sign of dehydration.
Yeah, very good. Do you sometimes learn from nurses in the profession when you were in college and doctors to help you with what your job is today, work with young people?
Yes, and at Florida International, we worked with other physical therapists since that is one of our domains. So they give us like a broader spectrum on rehab exercises that we can do like post-surgery, because when we're in school, we learn like after the physical therapist has worked with them. So I think that like helps broaden our horizons as well.
Right, too, because broken bones can happen anytime.
Absolutely. And you never see it coming.
No, absolutely not. Deanna Edwards, certified athletic trainer for the Newport News Public Schools, Warwick High School, and of course, what did you enjoy the most about Warwick?
We have a pretty good football team, so that's been exciting. I just like the family environment there. That's what's kept me alive, being away from home. And yeah, everyone's just a family there.
Right. Each 3 years has been different, right?
It has. I have a new athletic director. He's amazing, but he meshes in well, and like I can't see the difference in a sense of like the family orientation. So it's good.
And you're always learning too in the job too, because nutrition, science, and athletic training is always a work in progress too.
And the human body is so complex, so someone may look different from someone else. So yes, I've learned a lot about nutrition because I only had to take one class. So that's been a lot. And I don't like to say I don't know. I like to say, let me figure it out.
There you go.
So we learn together.
Yeah, we all have to learn. And of course, physical health goes hand in hand with mental health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We actually have our school social worker is also one of our assistant athletic directors, and he's done a program at Ward to help with mental health, whether it's from losing a game, losing a family member, or just stress in general. We have that option for our kids to go to as well.
Right, because that mental health could affect the kids' play, boy or girl, on the playing field, and that could really be a domino effect for everybody else.
Absolutely, 1,000%. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's very important too. It's how you prepare it too as well. But it's so important. I mean, you can't take it for granted. Give some advice to some people out there that are not in sports. They just want to walk or run just to get their heart circulating.
Sure, absolutely. So the prerequisites are just to get at least 30 minutes of activity a day, whether it's walking stairs, whether it's just walking flat. But cardio health is what is going to save your life. Make sure you drink plenty of fluids before you start your walk or whatever the physical activity is, and then make sure you stretch and hydrate again after you finish. And then if you don't really have that much time and you're at work or in school or whatever the case may be, you can do something every hour of the hour. So simply just standing up, doing like 10 squats and then sitting back down if you have a desk job. It's so easy to halfway like be cognizant of your cardiorespiratory health.
Very good. Well, thank you for your Southern charm. You are a delight to talk to, Miss Deanna Edwards, certified athletic trainer for the Newport News Public Schools at Warwick High School, and all the best to you in your career.
Thank you so much.
All right, stay tuned for our next two guests coming up right here on our January edition of Sports Highlights as we roll on.
And welcome back to the Virginia High School 1600 meter state championship. As we get back to the action, we see Miles Monpoint is gaining on Antonio Boyd for the first place finish. Oh! Miles Monpoint just tripped Antonio Boyd.
But Trayvon is helping him up right now.
Trayvon is helping him up as Trayvon just sacrificed his third place finish to help out Antonio Boyd.
Yeah, that right there is kindness and excellent sportsmanship right there by Trayvon.
All right, welcome to our second segment of our January 2025 show. Glad you're with us, Greg Bicaveras. And of course, let's welcome our next guest, Otis Westby. Otis went to Menchville High School. He's now the head wrestling coach at Denby High School. Good to see you.
Thank you, Greg.
We'll talk about your background. You went to Menchville. You were a Monarch, and you played football and wrestling. Tell us, first of all, how was your football experience?
I enjoyed my football experience at Menchville. I had a lot of talented kids that come through the program when I was there. I actually started playing football, and one of my teammates was a football player. I used to wrestle around with him and took him down, and then the head coach, Chris Wyatt, currently wrestling, he asked me to wrestle that year, and I was like, okay, but I ain't show up till the next year.
Right. Well, talk about some of your head football coaches at Menchville when you were there.
My head football coach is John Byron. John Byron, he was a new coach coming in my sophomore year, and he took over the program.
Yeah, and he was at TAB recently as well. Then talk about wrestling. Was it tough going from football to wrestling, or you enjoyed both?
Well, I really enjoyed both. I really enjoyed football, and then once I got introduced to wrestling, I couldn't stop. I actually wrestled the next 3 years, and I was able to do the off season as well. And I won the Greco States 3 years in a row, and that took me different places. I can travel to Fargo, North Dakota, Oklahoma for Team Virginia. So it really got me out there, and it opened a lot of doors.
How was the weight divisions? Because that was not always easy back in the day, except for the heavyweight.
Yeah.
But the other weights, you had to make your weight. How does that whole work out now?
Well, now they really don't cut too much because they found out that it's more healthier just to stay your best self. And so you really work out and see where you land upon your weight, and then that's pretty much where you wrestle.
We'll talk about the different classes that you deal with now at Denby High School as far as weight divisions.
Okay, so they do have weight division. They got 106, they got 113, 120, 136. They go all the way up to 285 heavyweight, and each one is different. Each one has a different style of wrestling. The middle class is more solid, and technique-wise, the smaller guys are more scrappier, and the heavyweights are more, methodical with the way they do things.
In those wrestling matches, they can get intense.
Yeah, definitely. Wrestling is an intense sport. You train really hard for it, and you prepare during the off season. Mentally, you got to be prepared because you gotta show up at the right time, and you got to be in the right place, and you got to execute. So wrestling overall is a really tough sport to just participate in.
I mean, there's a lot of art and fundamentals and techniques. Talk about some of the preparation it takes to be an effective wrestler.
Well, like I said, off season you got to work really hard. You got some wrestlers that wrestle year round, but you got some that do multiple sports. But either way, you're training your body, you lifting weights, you running. Wrestling is one of the toughest conditions I ever did at any level. You just pushing yourself to another limit because, like I said, it's not only physically, it's mentally when you got to show up because you're right there on the mat. There's no one else there to pass you the ball or anything. Yeah. You got to show up for yourself, and all the work that you put in leading up shows, so it's going to show if you haven't really put in the work to prepare for the season.
Right. You got teammates that are cheering you on, but you said you're solo out there as well. You talk about wrestling, how important it is too, because it's a sport for a lifetime. Yes. It really is too, that you can still do when you're older, just to get that physical workout in.
Yes. Wrestling is the #1 martial art in the world.
Right.
So yes, you do it from the ages of 4 or younger all the way until you're no longer here. You can wrestle and you can compete until you can't compete no more. So it is a lifetime sport, and it's something that when you get involved with, you start to live a healthy lifestyle. You start to eat well, you start to just learn how to be healthy and more mobile. So it is important that everybody wrestles.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's a #1 martial art, so it teaches you discipline, it teaches you structure, so you can just be the best person you can be.
Right. We're talking to Otis Westby. This is the January edition of Sports Highlights. Glad you're with us, our interview show. He is the head wrestling coach at Denby High School. He went to Menchville High School. All right, year 2, how was year 1 in your opinion? What are your goals this year?
With the year 1, we was able to come out swinging. We was able to go 7-2. So this year, I'm planning on building on top of that because the first year, I had at least no help that year. So with the second year, I have some great coaches, a great team behind me. I had a great AD, and just the off season, the work that they've been putting in, I expect great things.
Great rivalry with you in Menchville, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
That you went there,
Yeah, it's always sweet to go wrestle them, and of course I got to beat them.
How about, it used to be a lot of football players would wrestle. Is that still the case?
Yes, and So I got a youth wrestling program called Flex Wrestling. Like I said before, it has ages from 4 all the way through middle school to high school, and they're all over. And so all ages. I'm sorry, what was it?
Well, footwork and handwork is also very important at those ages, correct?
Yes.
I mean, you have to start at a young age because if you're off balance, that can affect wrestling.
No, definitely. So you really learn athleticism in wrestling. You always learn how to be an athlete. That's one of the first things that we show you. You learn how to be an athlete, then you start to evolve into the wrestling moves and get to the next level.
A lot of sports have JV programs. What about wrestling? Because some of the best wrestlers have been ninth graders.
Yes, definitely. And they do have a JV program because you have a lot of talented kids and only one wrestler can make that spot, to represent the team. So it's great to have JV because you get to develop the kids, you get to have to develop athletes, and you get to go against, seasoned athletes that can help you grow.
We're talking to Otis Westby. How do you coach up a player? I mean, what do you tell somebody that's about to wrestle right before they go to the mat?
Well, I tell them to just focus. You already put in the work. You already prepared for this. So all you got to do is do your best, and your best is good enough. So all you got to do is go out there, execute. You know what to do. And it's just reaction from there, because you start out training. We do all the work prior to the event. When the event shows, that's when you just work.
And flush out all the distractions.
Yes.
Because it's really your mind against that other person's mind. And there's nothing like wrestling where it is mind, body, and spirit. It really is.
Definitely.
What do you think about all this mixed martial arts and, and different stuff here? It's different from, let's just say, boxing and wrestling.
Oh, I love it. I was able to compete a little bit in mixed martial art as well. Like I said, wrestling is a martial art, so it goes hand in hand with the other. So you always want to, since I'm wrestling, how about let me box? If I'm boxing, let me do some Muay Thai. Of course, do some Jiu-Jitsu. All of it is something you can utilize for like a healthy life and for discipline and for self-defense. And just when you do a martial art, you're really in control. You really focus on control, and you're able to just be able to control your mind, control the room, and you don't really have to show out in front of everybody. You don't have no self-confidence issues.
I think you said it. Mixed martial arts and karate help people in life.
Yes.
Very good. All the best to you, Otis, and good luck as January rolls on with the Denby program.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Otis Westby, he went to Menchville. He's the head wrestling coach at Denby High School. Stay tuned for our next guest right here on our January show.
You're watching NNPS TV. Catch sports highlights on Mondays at 7, 2, and 7, and on Saturdays and Sundays at 9 a.m. Visit us online at nnpstv.com to view all your favorite episodes. NNPS TV, watching education happen.
And welcome back to our January segment, 2025 of Sports Highlights, our interview show since February of 1992. Glad you're with us. My name is Greg Bicaveras. Hope you enjoyed our first two guests, Deanna Edwards and Otis Westby. Let's switch gears now to talk softball with Bianca Palmer-Scott. She's the head softball coach at Woodside High School. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Very good. How was your softball background? Tell us how you all got started.
So I grew up playing travel ball in the Hampton Roads through various travel teams, and I committed to Christopher Newport University my sophomore year of high school, and I was a true utility player. I could catch, I could play third, outfield, I was a slapper, I could also hit from the right side. And then at CNU, my first 2 years, I was used as a pinch runner because I was known for my speed. And then my sophomore year, we won the national championship, so that was a great time. And then my last year there, I was used as the designated hitter or a catcher.
And CNU's done very well at the national level in softball. Talk about that.
So my freshman year, we went to the regional level because of COVID. Instead of doing regionals and super regionals, they actually combined them to do a 6-team regionals. So we flew out to Texas Lutheran out in Texas. Did not do as well as we could have, but next year we definitely came back where we made it to the World Series a couple hours away in Roanoke, and we won it all. Our record was 47-1 that year. And then the following year we went back to the World Series where we fell short of going back to back.
Well, you've done really well too, and you're talking about you're at Woodside, you're a teacher now, and you're coaching. You did not waste any time at all. You went right to it. We'll talk about what you do day to day at Woodside and also coaching.
So I get to school and I teach a finance course, a computer course, and I try to bring things that relate to the students. I teach a lot of football players, so I bring sports into it. Not everybody's into sports, so I relate to the music industry, makeup, whatever the students are interested in. And then right after school, Mondays and Tuesdays, I do softball conditioning, and the season's right around the corner, so that's going to be 5 days a week. So I don't leave till it's dark out.
Yeah, and of course, sometimes you leave when it's dark, and you don't have just a normal commute from the south side of the Virginia Beach area or even Williamsburg. Talk about your commute.
So I live in Tappahannock, which is literally an hour flat drive. So bright side is I don't hit traffic. So if I leave at 5:15, I get to school at 6:15. But the downside is if I'm running late, I'm definitely going to be late.
Yeah, very good. Well, talk about what do you expect in your program this spring?
So this past season, we did pretty well. We went to the regional tournament where we faced Granby, where we lost first round, but it was a super exciting time to even make it there. It's been a while since we got there. This year, my goal is to go with at least a 500% or 500 record, ideally better than that, and go back to regionals and go get to the second round at least.
Now, as far as finding good pitchers, that's always difficult, whether it's baseball or softball. Baseball, they get criticized a lot for having the same pitchers over and over, especially at high school compared to college or professional. How is it for softball? I know you don't want to burn the girls' arms out, but you saw that in college.
Yes. So in college, we would change pitchers from game to game, from inning to inning. At the high school level, especially Newport News, it's a little bit different. A school may only have 1 or 2 pitchers. Some schools are lucky enough to have 3 or 4. I'm grateful to have a couple girls that know how to pitch, so I'm able to switch them out as needed. I did rely on a pitcher heavily last year, and I'm looking forward to what she does in the circle this year.
Right, of course, there's always young girls that are working up the way too, but it's not easy playing any of the positions. And how do you determine which position they play? Because I'm sure fall ball, when they're young kids, they're playing softball all the time. That helps by the time they get to high school.
So for Woodside in particular, I take a look at all the conditionings that we do throughout the school year. And I look at what the team needs the most. We may have a very athletic player that can play shortstop and has the great arm, or we may see her behind the plate because she has great reflexes, she's very agile, or another player may be best suited in the outfield because they have a ton of range. So I'm not the type of coach that once a player's locked into a position, that's their position. Last year we went through the injury bug, so players played positions they didn't think they would play. So I'm always looking for new ways to maybe spark something to get the ball rolling to win some games.
How has the respect factor been? Because last year you weren't much older than some of the girls that were seniors. So how has that been? Of course, I'm sure they were very happy to see you as well.
I haven't had any issues as far as that, so I'm very grateful for that because I know if I had however old coach come in and be like, oh, what is she talking about? How do we know that she's credible? But I'm thankful to my background and my resources who has mentored me to be in the position that I am. And they were ready to learn, ready to get back to regionals after some time being away from it.
Yeah, well, y'all play it. It's really nice because it's kind of private and quiet back there. You don't have a whole lot of distractions.
Yes.
How important is that?
It's super important, but it also has its downsides. So when we went to regionals, we were at Stony Run, which is right down the road, and they have 4 or 5 fields that were all being used. Our girls weren't used to that. I have a couple travel ball players and a couple not travel ball players. So the travel ball players are used to the distractions, all the noise and everything like that. The non-travel ball players, it was a new environment for them. So something I plan on doing this year is create more of that distraction environment, because when you get to games, you've got the other team yelling, you've got parents yelling, you've got umpires, you've got all that pressure added that something needs to be worked on in practice.
There's always a ball or always a strike, right, too. How about the home run hitters? Do you see many of those?
We do. I had one last year that was pretty reputable. She's currently playing at Winston-Salem State, so I'm excited to see what she's doing in the season. Woodside, I don't try to teach home runs. I'm more of a base hit hitter because home runs, if they come, they come. I am not afraid to bunt the ball. I'm not afraid to steal bases. But if you get an extra base hit, then another girl can hit you in. So manufacturing runs rather than relying on the long ball.
We're talking to Bianca Palmer-Scott from Woodside High School. What about your high school background? Did it help you coach as well when you saw what these girls would go through?
I think it did. I went to a school in Virginia Beach that had a successful program. We went to the state tournament my sophomore year. So I took what I learned from that coach. I took what I learned from my travel ball coaches and the coaches at Christopher Newport. And I took bits and pieces of what I felt the girls need in this school versus what maybe I want them to get to. Because they may think that they're capable of this, but I want them to get to the next level.
Right, you don't want them to burn out either. So basically, we're in the spring of 25 now, and you get to the season and say, all right, you got 9 to 11 girls that want to play different positions. Some want to play the same position. But the good thing with outfield, you got a right fielder, center fielder, and outfielder. But sometimes people want to play both catcher, correct?
Yes.
How do you balance that?
So I kind of drive into competition. Practice is where you earn your playing spot. That's where you earn your playing time. No spot's guaranteed. Doesn't matter how old you are. If a freshman comes out and is outstanding, they will start over a senior who's not putting in the effort. So I go off of Athletes Unlimited, which is a summer program for professional athletes where if they get a base hit, they get some points. If they stole a base, they get some points. So I try to bring that into the factor of who's going to be that position and who are we playing, who's going to be the best successful. If we're playing a hard-hitting team, maybe I need somebody who's better fielding-wise at third base rather than somebody who can field a bunt. But if we're playing a team that's going to bunt the ball a little bit more, I'd want a little bit more speed on the corners.
Who do you expect to be some of your tough competition?
Gloucester, Kecoughtan, and Menchville. Those are the top ones in our district.
So you got to be prepared for those
Yes.
teams. Right, what advice would you give to a young girl that wants to play softball?
Keep working hard. Hard work beats talent any day. If you want to get extra work in, reach out to your coaches, get those lessons. If you're a pitcher, you need the lessons. Hitting, you got to work on your own. It doesn't just take practice. It takes your individual time and effort.
Exactly, because one thing about your CNU team, a lot of those girls got along, you're friends, and that really helps when you get to playing a tough game, right?
Yes. Yeah, I know every time we played Salisbury, it was a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah, on the road or at home, right?
Yes.
Very good. All right. Well, Bianca, thank you so much, and it's important too that these girls have good academics too, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's important.
You're a student athlete first, so student comes first.
Very good. All right, Bianca Palmer-Scott is our guest right there. She's the head softball coach at Woodside High School, enlightening us about the wonderful sport of softball, and people play fall ball and, great teammates. It takes a total team effort in order to win in baseball or softball. I want to thank all of our guests for the January show, Deanna Edwards, Otis Westby, and Bianca Palmer-Scott, and our great crew right here. Happy New Year, and of course, Mr. Price as well. I'm Greg Bicaveras. Thanks for watching our January show, and we'll talk to you soon.